All right, thank you for telling us, reading the rules, and I'll try to obey. I am, well, let's see. Yeah, so the slides are up there. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Yeah, my name is Carl. What? Okay, yeah, is this, okay, how's that? Is that better? O- Okay, kind of have a sore throat, so I'm not sure how long that'll last. But anyway, yeah, my name is Carl Harris. And yeah, as the slide shows, I'm the topic manager for the Screen and Its Speed program. And it's been a program that's been around for 6 or 7 years. I think I joined S&T probably about 5 years ago. I came from industry. And so this program is focused on nominally checkpoint security, trying to develop, work with industry to develop technologies at the choke point there. What's neat for me, uh, being relatively new to the government, is that this is a technology that most everybody understands. Probably everyone in this room has flown through the airport and has gone through the checkpoint and probably have negative comments and positive comments about their experience. So over the years, TSA has been working to improve those by um, the experience, if you will, by putting in better equipment. Like today, TSA is putting in CT machines that hopefully will, they check the bags further, a little bit better security, perhaps. We're doing the stand-up millimeter wave type of systems. But the thing is, though, that's still at the checkpoint. So um, I didn't realize we were close to a train here. So if we go to I've only got a few slides here. So um, first, let me just do, I guess, some housekeeping. This is the language that is in the topic BAA. So this is the first thing you would read when you read the topic. So what I thought I'd do is, rather than read it, I'll just highlight some of the points. I'm not going to sit here and say you read it and I'll go to the next slide, but I'm actually going to read it to a degree. But now, let's see. If I move away, I guess our online folks won't hear me, I guess. So okay. So all right. So I don't have a copy. Well, anyway, okay. I was just going to say a simple idea, and that's the kind of things we're looking for. This out of box thinking. Sometimes we don't think of simple things like that, but every now and then a simple thing gets complicated real quick. So, all right, so I'll just simply highlight that one of the things we want to do is enhance security. It's not like we've got good security already, but can we enhance it, especially for emerging, new threats that are coming out? Can we adapt faster to new threats, update the systems that we have, that sort of thing? So the topic description basically speaks about new ways of or transforming. Not just a minor little change, but something transformative that people will notice. And we deal with the public every day. So any of this stuff I'm talking about, you also have to consider privacy considerations. So I'll highlight that. But many of the proposals I've gotten in the past kind of forget that aspect. So even if the idea was good, you got to figure out ways that we protect the privacy of our citizens. So the end objective, it does kind of state a prototype solution for a whole system, but we're also looking at just components. Just say a simple software. I use the word simple, but a software package that might be different than what we've done, or how we operate a little bit. So I'll kind of highlight. So first of all, what do we bring our bags with us. So can we figure out ways to be more efficient about how we scan those bags, for example, or search them, or that sort of thing. So typically, they go through a X-ray scanning machine, and then if something is amiss or suspicious, then there's a secondary, and then usually this, a TSO comes in and pats you down, and so the question is, can those be a little bit more automated? Can can a suspicious thing that's been identified automatically identified through a different technology, so the TSO doesn't have to pat you down? That would benefit the TSOs too. It's not like they don't enjoy that, just like the passengers don't enjoy it. So these are the types of things that we would like to automate, if you will. And then so that's for carry-on. And then and as I mentioned, it's not just a system, but just a piece of a system. If you can improve something on an existing system that we have, if you have ideas about that, or some of the software. I'll talk about open architecture, but that's kind of a buzzword. What we're really looking for in this regard is ways to enhance the existing systems through software, and allowing the OEMs who make those systems, allowing a path for other people to help enhance that hardware, if you will. So that's kind of my opinion of the open architecture wording. But at the end of this talk, I will also give you resources where you can get more detailed information, or check to make sure I'm speaking accurately. Okay, so I talk about carry-on bags. Then it's you yourself. Are you carrying anything on yourself, or in your shoes, that sort of thing. So we have so any way to scan individuals, and that's the on-person screening. And the question can we take it away from just that choke point, and then kind of bring more of a systems approach, if you will, systems engineering through the open space in the airport, which is what we call let's see, curb. Yeah, that's kind of what curb to gate screening is, and maybe even beyond that. So can we start the security process a little bit sooner? And maybe an eventual vision might be what's sort of depicted on the right, although well, I'll just, so maybe one day we could just walk into the airport, put our bag over here as we're walking there, and they're traveling together, and we come out the other end, and we keep going, and there's really no stopping. So that's sort of a vision. And you'll notice the TSO is still sitting there in that picture. I'm not sure when this picture was drawn, but if we can go to more algorithms, more automated approaches, if you will, maybe that TSO officer doesn't have to be there anymore. They can be in a more centralized area looking at a whole bunch, especially if there's a small airport that maybe does a couple of flights a day. Maybe a TSO at one of the major airports nearby could do the screening for them. So it's those types of things and concepts that we're hoping to collect from folks. And anything, I think earlier today we talked about we don't have all the ideas, and you have all the ideas, if you will. So if we work together, we can get some of these new ideas and see if we can make them work. Okay, so let me go to the next slide. All right, so I'll talk about the screen-in at speed general mission. The nominal issue is that there's more and more travelers. So, and there's a picture there that just shows it's getting busier and busier. Perhaps there was an example of that this morning when I was standing in line to get in, to this facility, and maybe at lunch. That's not something that you look forward to, but the bottom line is that's part of the issue. And then when you are doing these things, I know I'm always asking, okay, I'm at this airport. Do I have to take my shoes off? So trying to get that information, just the wayfaring. Is there a better way that we can communicate to the once a year traveler or something? Here's what you need to do so they can be a little more efficient themselves, being prepared. And then of course there's always new threats coming along, and so can we quickly adapt to those threats? And so that's kind of the screening at speed mission to try to address those issues. And so thinking in a broad sense, again, we don't want to be prescriptive in the LRBAA. We want to make sure folks understand that we're looking for new ideas and out of the box thinking, to coin a term. So one of the solutions is to think, okay, can we integrate all these different types of technologies across a span so that there might be somebody coming into the airport or even getting out of their car outside the airport or coming off a commuter train, and maybe there's some initial quick inspection. Again, we got to be worried about privacy, so I mean, we can't just say, oh, that's John Doe and his daughter Kate, and oh, they're coming in, and we can't do that. So we're looking at technologies that allow us to achieve that mission and yet protect our individual privacy. So anyway, so that's a type of things we're thinking about. Can we take it from that checkpoint? Maybe if a few more inspections are done here, or just kind of preliminary look, or maybe a risk-based approach. Again, from a privacy perspective, you got to worry about those types of things. But are there ideas about how we can do these things and still be within that boundary? And of course, the impact, as I mentioned earlier, would be being able to go through the airport and not do this stuff. So and my daughter will be going to Disney World, I think, soon. So I'm thinking about those lines. So in those cases, it's like, how can you make that experience waiting 30 minutes in a line, at least a little better? So I mean, there might even be some passenger experience while they're there. Excuse me. So this kind of describes our mission. I keep saying next slide when I got it right here. So I wanted to give some examples of what we've been doing recently with regard to what I've spoke about. And so on the left is something called strategic initiatives. Excuse me. I don't have a cold. I got this frog in my throat. So let me talk about some of the strategic initiatives we've kind of started doing. Our chief of staff earlier, Steve, he mentioned he was at the Las Vegas airport, and we had the self-screening systems there being tested. So if you were pre-check, you had the option, you could go down and actually go through that system and give us feedback. Well, that's that passenger self-service screening, that first one there. So we're looking at that. Now, does that mean that 10 years from now, you're just going to go up and do it yourself like like at the grocery store where you check out? That doesn't necessarily mean that, but many of the components of that might be useful. For example, just this how we convey the information of how to use it, or some of the camera systems that have clever ways to anonymize you to protect the privacy, that sort of thing. So, and that's being tested at Las Vegas through in partnership with the TSA Innovation Task Force. I'll give you that information at the end. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm not over my time here. So, okay, then the next section there is on-person screening. So, so can we do screening where we're just walking along? Right now we stand there like this, or some of the screening systems allow you to have a little more flexibility. Can we have people in a wheelchair just do the same thing? So we have some programs to, or if you have, I have pacemaker stuff. Some of my friends have the pumps. So anyway, and of course, and if you got implants, so we do have a small program initiative, if you will, looking at that. So if there are ideas in those areas, we're looking for those. Um, okay, so how do I? Okay, could you? uh, okay, so for the on-person screening, an initiative that a company had actually done was, there's new technology that's come out. The transceivers for 5G or for automotive radars, some of those components now are very inexpensive. So, so are there clever ways to use those devices and put them like say in a wand so we can maybe if something is seen, you could do a quick check with that as opposed to okay, start patting them down. So that's something that that's sort of an initiative there. And I mentioned earlier, limited mobility passengers. Maybe looking at algorithms in the AI in the on-person screening. That's when I say AI, that's the millimeter wave where you stand. And so we're looking at those areas. Um, Also, just the screening of the property. We do have X-ray diffraction as a potential uh, augment to X-ray to standard transmission X-ray, and also looking at maybe phase contrast or even photon counting type of detectors. Maybe we can extract a little more information out of the CT, like what the medical community does. And then every AI, ML, artificial intelligence. Those are the humongous buzzwords these days, and means a lot to different people. But here we're talking about can we take the data that we have, which by the way, data drives everything. So you got to be able to curate the data, um, identify the truth. There's all sorts of aspects that goes on to making a data set even useful for an algorithm to be tested. So those are the types of things we're interested in. Detection algorithms themselves. Can we do enhance or can we adjust these algorithms to detect something new and do that quickly? Rather than take a long time, because it takes a long time to collect real data. Using synthetic data, maybe we can do that as well. And even the test and evaluation tools. We have the Transportation Security Laboratory in Atlantic City that does a lot of the certification. So we work closely with them. So we're also helping them. We're also helping them with figuring out, well, what's the best way to test these things, and verify them in the field and track them. It's not like we're doing it today, but can we do that more efficiently? Can we do it more cost effectively? Can we use one data set to train a whole bunch of algorithms and maybe enhance that data set rather than do a data collection every time we need a new algorithm? That's the type of thing there. And then on the right, we have demonstrations. So again, as the chief of staff had mentioned earlier, we were doing demonstration there out at um, um, Las Vegas airport there, and they have a facility that we can use. Looking at prohibitive items, that's always a tough thing to we'd like to reduce the false alarms, on detecting those. And there's the airport risk assessment model. I mean, maybe something like that could be used to kind of assess the airport area and where areas might be prone to potential problems. And of course, a lot of these technologies can be potentially used by the Border Patrol, Secret Service. In fact, we've done that. Some of the technologies, which I'll point out, there's the small form factor computed tomography. I don't want to use the word mobile CT because it's still big. I mean, I'm sorry, portable CT, because you think of portable as small, but it's a mobile CT, so it is a smaller footprint, but it means you can put it on a truck, moving around where you need it. So for example, the Secret Service could use that, at certain venues or we can TSA also is worried about venues like the Super Bowl, things like that. So if you have some mobile capability, we'd be interested in that as well, but more for TSA surface transportation. So it kind of gets away a little bit from the Air Force. I'm sorry, Air Force, from the aircraft things. So if you have a dual use capability, that's always helpful too. But the focus of this topic is basically for the airport. But if there's dual use, that's even better. So I think my last slide is here. So here are some resources if you're really not familiar with this. These are resources you can read, but I would also encourage if you see other when I know TSA had an industry day on open architecture, so a lot of industry could come in there. They could actually talk to the folks. So if you can also talk to folks within DHS to kind of get a feel for that if you don't already, that would be a good thing. But a good start is at the top is the Screening at Speed program. That's the actual website. I'm pretty sure if you type in, I don't know, will these be? I'm not sure if these will be available. I assume they will be, but be that as it may, Screening at Speed program. That's at the DHS website. You can pull that up. It gives this in much more detail. There's also the LRBAA. So I don't know why I put that up there. You already know that one. That's where the topic is and everything. The DHS strategic plan. I don't know if you know that, but DHS has an updated strategic plan. If you go to the DHS website, S&T, the Science and Technology Division of DHS, also has a strategic plan, and that was updated recently. Our current Undersecretary spearheaded that effort. You can always go to the Homeland Security Act, even though it's dated. There's still high-level information that's reasonable. But I would point out, since this is TSA, I would suggest go to the TSA strategy site. It's on their site, tsa.gov, and there it talks about what TSA strategy is. So that can kind of give you a feel for, coming straight from the people that we also serve here at S&T. And then finally, the TSA Innovation Task Force. It'd be worthwhile to kind of get up to speed with what they do, but they do demonstrations. It's sort of like a CRADA. They do demonstrations. So about every so often, they'll put out a call saying, if you have some technology you want to demonstrate, they'll actually host it. You would have to pay to drive down there, but that's a way to host it. And we do a lot of work with the Innovation Task Force to test some things or validate things. So I think with that, hopefully I haven't usurped too much time here. I think I had 25 minutes. So I think that's my last slide then. Yeah. Okay, I guess in a normal presentation, I'd say, are there any questions? But I can't do that. So if you do have questions, please feel free to log them in or hand them in, and we'll be doing that. Oh, great. Okay, so you will have access to this, and use Pigeonhole, which unfortunately that's the first time I heard of it this morning. So, all right, I guess that's all I have then. Is that 25 minutes? Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your attention and certainly your interest and thanks. Being from industry, I know what it costs to come to these things. So I really appreciate it.